इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So which verse are we discussing today?
33 Guru.
33.
Yeah.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Yo anugrahartham bhajatam padamulam.
Yo anugrahartham bhajatam padamulam.
Anamarupo Bhagavan Anantah.
Anamarupo Bhagavan Anantah.
Namani Rupani ch Janma Karmabhi.
Namani Rupani ch Janma Karmabhi.
Bheje Samahyam Paramah Prasidatu.
Bhaje Samahyam Paramah Prasidatu.
Yes. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Janma Pranam. Translation purport by Sripad Ki Jai. Translation: the Supreme Person of the Godhead, who is inconceivable of operant, who is divided of all material names, forms and pastimes, and who is all-pervading, especially merciful to devotees who worship his lotus feet. Thus, he exhibits transitional forms and names with the different pastimes. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, be merciful to me. Purport. As regards to the significant word Anama Upaha, Sri Sridhar Swami says, Praktam Nama Rupa Rahitu. The word Anam, which means having no name, indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Has no material name. Okay, 1 second. Simply by chanting the name of Narayana to call him his son, Ajamil attained salvation. That means that Narayana is not an ordinary mundane name in a material, non-material. The word Anama therefore indicates that the name of Supreme Lord do not belong to this material world. The vibration of this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not a material sound. And similarly, the forms of Lord and his appearance and activities are all non-material. To show this, God is mercy to the devotees as well as to the non-devotees. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appears in this material world with names, forms, and pastimes, all of which are transitional. Unintelligent men who cannot understand this think that these names, forms, and pastimes are material, and therefore they deny that he has name or form. Consider with scrutiny the conclusion of non-devotees who say that God has no name and that a devotee who knows that his name is not material are practically the same. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no material name, form, birth, appearance, or disappearance, but nevertheless, he takes his birth, Janama, as it says in Bhagavad Gita 4.6. Ajav apis janam avyam atam bhutanam ishvara apisarsa praktim sevam adhik driste samam vedma atva mayat. Although the Lord is unborn, Aja, and his body never undergoes material changes, he nevertheless appears as an incarnation, maintaining himself always in the transitional stage. Suddha Tattva, the sea, exhibits his transitional forms, name, and activities. That is his special mercy towards his devotees. Others may continue merely arguing about whether the absolute truth has a form or not. But when a devotee, by the grace of the Lord, sees the Lord personally, he becomes spiritually ascetic. Unintelligent persons say that he, the Lord, does nothing. Actually, he has nothing to do, but nevertheless, he has to do everything. Because without his sanction, no one can do anything. The unintelligent, however, cannot see how he is working, how he's working and how the entire material nature is working under his action. His different potencies work perfectly. Natasya karyam karanam jay vidyate natat samas jay bhajikskar on prastha parsay saktiri vivadvante surate सर्व विवेक ज्ञानम बाल क्रिया ओन. So it's Upanishad 6.8. He has nothing to do personally, for since his potencies are perfect, everything is immediately done by his will. A person to whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not revealed cannot see how he is working, and therefore they think that even if there is God, he has nothing to do or has no particular name. Actually, the Lord's name already exists because of the transitional activities. The Lord is sometimes called Guna Karma Nama because he is named according to his transitional activities. For example, Krishna means all attractive. This is the Lord's name because the transitional qualities make him very attractive. As a small boy, he lifted Govardhan Hill, and in his childhood, he killed many domets. Such activities are very attractive, and therefore he is sometimes called Giridhari, Madhusudan, Agar, Agar Nisandhi, and so on, because he acted as Giridhar Madhusudan, as the son of Nand Maharaj. He is called Nandtanuja. These names already exist, but since non-devotees cannot understand the names of the Lord, he is sometimes called Anama or nameless. This means that he has no material name. All his activities are spiritual, and therefore he has spiritual names. Generally, less intelligent men are under the impression that the Lord has no form. Therefore, he appears in his original form as Krishna, Satchidanand Vigraha, to carry out his mission of participating in the Battle of Kurukshetra and pastimes to protect the devotees and vanquish the demons. Pratyande sadhavan vinastiti dukkharam. This is his mercy for those who think that he has no form and no work to do. Krishna comes to show that indeed he works. He works so gloriously that no one can perform such uncommon acts. Although he appeared as a human being, he married 16,108 wives, which is impossible for a human being to do. The Lord performs such activities to show people how great he is, how affectionate he is, and how merciful he is. Although he, although his original name is Krishna, Krishna the Bhagavan Shiva, he acts in unlimited ways, and therefore, according to his work, he has many thousands of names. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inconceivably opulent, who is devoid of all material names, forms, and pastimes, and who is all pervading, is especially merciful to the devotees who worship his lotus feet. Thus, he exhibits transcendental forms and names with his different pastimes. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose form is eternal and full of knowledge and bliss, be merciful to me. So, Anama, Prakrita Nama Rupo Rahito. So, Lord has Anama Rupo Bhagavan Ananta. See, we have seen previously in the last 2-3 verses where Daksha is explaining, or rather the Hansa Guhya prayers are explaining, that the material senses cannot perceive something that is transcendental. Material senses act on material platform. The Lord exists beyond material. He exists in the platform of transcendence. Therefore, he cannot be understood through material senses. Any attempt to understand his position, his personality, his name, form, anything through the material estimations is bound to be an illusion. So therefore, this is also the point, why we need to study the scriptures as they are given, and why we need to understand the commentaries of the acharyas and not some mundane scholars. Actually, even a devotee who is not on the transcendental platform cannot comment on these verses. This commentary must come from only self-realized acharyas, and all the others who are less than self-realized must adhere to the commentaries as they are, without any interpretation. Otherwise, we'll be mistaken, because our mind, our intelligence, everything is existing purely in material plane. For us, the understanding of the Supreme Lord is only a concept. It's a theoretical understanding. We do not have proof of the Lord. We do not have a realization of the Lord. Therefore, we must accept the evidence as it is given and follow the practices without speculating even a little bit on this. Here also, another important thing that Srila Prabhupada emphasizes is that you have to follow the instructions of the spiritual master as they are. There are many commentaries by many devotees, but we have to accept what is given by our specific sampradaya. Otherwise, there is always a chance of becoming mistaken. So someone like Srila Prabhupada, for example, who has seen Krishna, can explain from various commentaries of acharyas. But if we try to do, we will get bewildered. Even after studying the commentaries of self-realized souls, there is always a chance that we could get bewildered. Because the commentaries will have some changes from each other. There would be some distinctions. And as a non-self-realized soul, we might get confused. Therefore, it is always best to study under the guidance of a pure devotee acharya. And once we have some degree of realization, then we can study other scriptures. But till such time, we must scrutinize the scriptures given by our own acharyas and try to understand them fully. Now, just a moment. Yeah. So, Anama Rupo Bhagavan Ananta. So, Lord is completely transcendental. His name, fame, pastimes, everything is transcendental. So when we discuss the authorized pastimes of Krishna on the basis of Bhagavatam or other authorized books, then we are actually hearing the pastimes as they are. So even though we may not understand them, the soul is able to hear and the soul becomes purified. Because Krishna is completely transcendental. When we say Krishna, when we chant the name Krishna, it is the Lord himself. It is not different. So even though we are not able to understand through our mundane senses, the soul within can perceive it. In America, once Srila Prabhupada said that, you should chant in front of drunkards also. So even though they are unconscious, the soul is still active. The soul can still perceive the holy name. So that will be still beneficial even if a person is unconscious. So chanting a holy name is still beneficial because it is transcendental. And the soul is transcendental. So Krishna, the holy name of Krishna has descended into this material world just to deliver the living entities. So, so by chanting this name, one will easily become delivered. So why do then people think that this name is an imagination? So Ajopisan avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropisan prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavamya atma mayaya. So he's unborn. His body never undergoes material changes. He nevertheless appears as an incarnation, maintaining himself always in transcendental state, Shuddha Sattva. So in the in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has already stated, Janma karma chame divyam. So his activities are transcendental. They cannot be understood. For example, if you see, like before the flight, when you board the aircraft, you see the pilots are sitting there and doing something. The plane doesn't take off. The doors are closed, but the pilots are still doing something, and the aeroplane is not going away. So you're wondering what's going on. To a layman, it will look like they're just wasting time. But in reality, they're doing many things which cannot be understood by an uneducated person. So likewise, Lord's activities cannot be understood by those who are uneducated. We do not have understanding of his pastimes. Some of the pastimes of the Lord appear very common, very mundane. So therefore, like practically everyone in India thinks of Krishna as some mystical personality, but hardly a few understand him as the Supreme Lord himself. So, uh, so it's very very difficult. Understanding, getting entrance into the transcendence of Krishna is very difficult. Even great personalities like Indra, Brahma, and even Lord Shiva sometimes mistake Krishna's actual position. So Shiva sent Kashiraj to fight with Lord Krishna. Indra sent the Samvartak clouds. Brahma stole the cows. So many offenses took place because of misunderstanding of Krishna's real position. So, what to speak of ordinary living entities like us, who do not even have that level of benediction from the Supreme Lord? So, to understand that, that's the reason why we study the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, how do we understand then Krishna? So, in the ninth chapter, Krishna explains this. Mahatmanas tu mam partha devim prakritim ashrita bhajante ananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls are under the protection of divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotion service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So, who are these devotees? How do we understand? How do we become these devotees? So, Krishna explains that in the next verse Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridhavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So Krishna is also saying, this is in the ninth chapter. In the 10th chapter, Krishna reiterates this point. Tesham satata yukta nam bhajatam priti purvakam. Or he also says, Mam yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. So by continuously engaging in loving devotional service of Krishna, even though we do not really understand him, gradually this intelligence will arise within our heart because the Lord gives it. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna will give this knowledge by which we can understand him. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te, by which they can attain me. So the process is simply, follow the schedule given by the acharyas. So gradually we can understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna actually is present everywhere, and yet he is not present anywhere. Aham sarvasya prabhavam matta sarvam pravartate. By me, everything is pervaded in this universe. Everything emanates from me, and everything is pervaded by me. And yet he is not here. So how do we understand that? Because this material world, the living entities are carrying out their own selfish desires, and Krishna is acting as a passive active principle. In that he's not applying his own desires here, but he's just fulfilling the desires of the living entities. Brahmayam sarva bhutani yantararudhani mayaya. So he's situated in the hearts of all living entities, and he's just directing their wanderings, just like a cab driver. You tell him that you want to go to the airport, and the cab driver just drives you there. You say railway station, he drives you to railway station. You say marketplace, he takes you to marketplace. It is his car. It is his skill of driving. He owns the vehicle, but still he follows your directions. So just like that, the Lord also simply follows the desires of the living entity. But if the living entity desires to surrender to him, then Krishna directs from within as Paramatma. So, so Krishna is present everywhere. सर्वतः पाणिपादम सर्वतोक्षि शिरोमुखम सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वम आवृत्य तिष्ठति. So everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes and faces, and he hears everything. In this way, the super soul exists. So Lord has his hands and feet everywhere. The Lord is pervading the entire universe. Actually, prakriti kriyamanani gunah karmani sarvasha. When the living entity desires to do something, the Lord activates the material energy to act on his behalf. So in reality, the Lord is the only doer. In this way, the Lord exists within this material creation. And yet, he has no duty. Lord is not obliged to do anything, but he does it out of his own goodwill. That is the nature of Lord. So one who understands this nature, Janma Karma Chame Devyam Evam Yo Veti Tatvata, one who understands this in substance. So who Tyaktva Deham Punar Janmane Iti. He doesn't take another birth here. Mam Eti So Arjuna, and he comes to me. So that's the whole purpose of our Bhagavad studies, to understand the transcendental nature of Krishna and get out of this material existence. But we can understand transcendental nature of Krishna only through transcendental instructions of the scriptures and the acharyas. But if one is able to, transcend this material nature, then he will find the all-attractive feature of the Supreme Lord. So even in this world, Krishna has manifested so many beautiful activities which appear ordinary to us, so that the pious amongst us could become attracted by those activities and thus reawaken the dormant love that we have for him. So Krishna appears in this kind of a seemingly material form. Gajendra is also explaining that you appear in the form of a man like Ram or Krishna, and yet those forms are transcendental. So they appear human-like forms. Actually, Krishna is very merciful. He first appears and performs his beautiful pastimes in Vrindavan as a small baby, as a small child, as a boy. Then he performs his wonderful pastimes in Mathura as a Kishora. And then after that, he performs his fantastic pastimes as the king of Dwarka, as Dwarkadhish. So first is Vrindavan Nandanandan, then he's Devaki Nandan, then he's acting as Dwarkadhish. And in all these pastimes, he's trying to attract the hearts of various categories of men. And then he finally even instructs Sarvadharmana Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Praja. And for those who still do not understand, he appears as Lord Chaitanya. And he shows through his personal example. So if you study the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and his devotees, you will understand that these pastimes are very relatable because they appear just like ordinary pastimes. So through his own example, Krishna is teaching again and again how to love him. So he has said, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam. So in this age of Kali, he has come to attract those who are innocent, and he has come here to destroy the demonic tendencies. Vinashaya cha dushkritam. So he has come here to destroy the demonic tendencies from within the heart. And dharma sansthapanarthaya, he has established the Sankirtan dharma. So by hearing of such activities of the Lord through authorized sources, gradually our heart will become purified and attracted to Krishna, and thus will be able to transcend this material nature. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Told that
Yes.
Krishna doesn't do anything. But the fact is that any material thing, he asks Durga Devi or the Maya Devi to do the job. So Maya Devi is part of him. Why would you say that Krishna doesn't do anything?
So, see, now let us see, let's look at it this way. If you say like, say, Tata Enterprises or Reliance Industries, so it's not that Ratan Tata is going to the factory shop floor to assemble machines, or he's going to consultancy services to type some code, or that he's going to electrical power plants to generate electricity. And yet everything is happening under his direction. So that is how the Lord is existing. Maya Jakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Material nature is acting under the will of the Supreme Lord. So even though he is the doer, he is not the doer. So he's personally not acting, he's directing the material energy to act on his behalf. That's why we think of material energy as separate from the Lord. It is his energy it is yet separate because it is acting independently, but not completely independently of him. It is acting under his direction. Yet without his effort, it is acting.
Absolutely. Even those who understand Bhagavatam, etc., they will get this point. But those who are not understanding, they'll say that you say that he doesn't do anything, and still you say that Durga Devi doing or energy doing everything on behalf. So that means not a contradiction. In fact, he is doing it out through the energy, material energy.
Of course. I mean, whose energy is it? It is his energy only. And yet he's not directly the doer.
That's right. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, then we stop here today. We continue on Monday with the next verse because it's a very long purport again, 2.5 pages. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.